Hello everybody and welcome back to the Blues Knot channel. Today I am back with another video. So currently I am actually uploading my Quakes preview between the San Jose Earthquakes versus Minnesota United. So that video should be uploaded in about 30 minutes. And also I'm watching the CONCACAF Champions League game between the Sounders and Santa Tequila or Tequila, however you want to pronounce it. And today I am actually going to be doing a power rankings. This is sort of like a preseason sort of power rankings, even though technically the season starts in about 2 days. And it's really hard to do this one because none of the 23 team has played a game. In fact, 3 of these teams is not even going to be playing this week. There's only 10 games this week, which means only 20 teams are playing, and the 3 other teams are going to be starting their season a week later. So yeah, it's really tough to predict and pretty much put them in a power ranking, but I try to do my best, and most of the standings you see is kind of like based on my prediction that I have made. And also another thing I will say is that some of these kind of power ranking, I actually started the power ranking and did this kind of power ranking on Tuesday, and I kind of changed it up a little bit. A couple of teams I changed it up because of either they signed a new player that could really inspire them to do well this season, or what happened in the CONCACAF Champions League. So there's going to be a little bit change, and I'll talk about it once we go along. But first of all, let's begin with the 23rd place in my power rankings coming into this season, and it is going to be Minnesota. Minnesota will be the bottom of the table or bottom of the ranking team, and there shouldn't be any surprise to why I put them near the bottom, because this team coming into this season looks exactly like the team last season, and the team last season did not do well at all. So yeah, I think this is still a team that is just glad that they are here in MLS, and they still have a lot of kind of NASL kind of players on their team that is just not quite MLS quality, and they're probably going to have to have another season where they're going to be heavily rely on Christian Ramirez and potentially Sam Cronin also to try to score goals, and hopefully that will be the case. And also they hope that the defense is not going to be as bad as last season, which probably is not going to be the case. It's going to be as bad as last season, which is why I put them in 23rd. But in 22nd, and this team, I was actually going to put them in the bottom until what happened in the CONCACAF Champions League. And this is what I said about how the CONCACAF Champions League, what happened a couple of days ago, really sort of affect the rankings of this, and Colorado was one of those teams. Colorado, they did lose to, well, they didn't lose, but they did drew 0-0 to Toronto and then lose 2-0 in the first leg, so they're out of the CONCACAF Champions League. Although, to be fair, I don't think, if you ask any Rapids fan, they don't really quite care about the CCL. The CCL for them is like a preseason training because they know they're not going to do anything in it. They're probably the weakest team in the CCL right now. So, and when I saw them play against Toronto, it looks very promising. They really took it to Toronto, and TFC didn't really look that good. I mean, TFC didn't look that good in that game, but you also got to give credit to Colorado. They had a couple of chances to score the goal. Obviously, that Baji kind of miss in the first leg probably really kind of cost Colorado in this, and they're definitely going to look back at this, because if Baji would have finished that, then yeah, I mean, TFC would have been in a little bit of trouble, and the momentum wouldn't be for TFC in that CCL game. But yeah, it looks really promising for Colorado. I thought they were doom and gloom coming in, but hopefully this CCL kind of, getting a 0-0 draw at BMO Field is just, it seems like a win for Colorado, because not a lot of teams get a 0-0 draw against Toronto at BMO Field. So hopefully they can take that into the season, and hopefully they can of course course, improve. And also, I think unless Minnesota wins this week against San Jose, most likely Colorado will also be in 22nd in my power rankings next week because they're not playing this week. They're one of the 3 teams that is going to be playing in the second week to start their season. But moving on, next team finishing in 21st, and this is the team that is in rock bottom of the Eastern Conference I predicted, and that, of course, is New England. And really for New England, you know, one thing I will say is that they do have a pretty easy stretch early on. I mean, the first 2 games is against Colorado and then Philadelphia, so those are very winnable games. And if they can get those games, and if they can get wins on both the games, then I might move them up a little bit in the power rankings. And also, I didn't mention this, but the power rankings is not really shows who is best in the league, but it's more shown like who is really like in form right now. So sometimes you see teams that are technically not the best in the league, but they are currently in form, and that's why I put them high up at the table. That's what the power rankings is do. It doesn't determine exactly who is the best in the league right now. And yeah, so for New England, if they can get a couple of wins, then I might move them up. But you know, if they start the season really poorly and with those 2 easy games and they both lose both of them, then I don't think they're going anywhere, and they might even slip down to near the bottom, near this spot also. So we'll see how that's gonna go. But in 20th, it's going to be Montreal. It's going to be Montreal that's going to be finishing in 20th. So the screen kind of got a little bit fuzzy there. But yeah, for Montreal, you know, this is obviously a rebuilding year for them. And, you know, they don't really have a very easy kind of stretch early on. They have to play Vancouver on the road. And, you know, I will say that for Montreal this year, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to go from this transition of getting rid of those old guys on their squad and bring some young talent, because it's pretty clear that that's what they wanted to do. And yeah, hopefully they can do that. And, you know, for now, I'm just going to put them in 20th because they're just rebuilding right now and they don't really look like they're going to be competing this year. But in 19th place, it is going to be the Union. Now, I know I predict them to finish 8th in my Eastern Conference prediction, but I have saw a couple of MLS prediction video by other YouTubers, and most of them put them near the bottom of the table, which I'm kind of surprised because they did make that big acquisition of David Accam. But then the more I look at it and the fact that, you know, that's it. David Accam is like really the only big acquisition that they made. I feel like maybe they're not going to do as well as they might go backwards this season. They might have another mediocre kind of year. But, you know, for now, I'm going to put them in 19th. And, you know, Philly, obviously, they, of course, play against New England. That's another big chance for Philly to get an opening win. And if they can get an opening win, I think I can definitely move them up in the rankings. And one of the things I will say about this kind of power ranking is whenever a team wins, most likely I will move them up. Whenever a team loses, most likely I'm going to move them down, because that's how the power ranking works. So, yeah. Philly's going to be in 19th, and then in 18th place, it's going to be LAFC. It's going to be the expansion team. Now, again, I put them very high up the table. You know, I put them like 7th place and on the verge of, you know, potentially making the playoffs. And you probably ask why I put them so low right now. Well, I just feel like right now with when I look at this squad and how it looks just so weak right now. And well, it's not weak, but it's just they do not have a lot of depth, and there's just so many unproven players. There's so many kind of unpredictability with LAFC in terms of the squad right now. You know, I don't know. I don't think they might struggle early on, and especially the fact that they're going to be on the road for the first a month and a half. I think they're definitely going to sort of struggle early on. So that's why I'm going to just put them in near the bottom right now. And yeah. Now in 17th place, it's going to be DC United. DC, certainly, like I said, they have definitely improved in terms of their midfield and definitely improved on their attack. And I'm pretty sure they're going to score more than they did last year. I mean, last year, the DC United had two big issues. One, scoring, and two, they can't defend. And when you combine to that, it's no wonder why they finished last in the Eastern Conference. But yeah, for DC, like LAFC, they're going to be on the road for pretty much the first half of the season. But unlike LAFC, they're going to be on the road pretty much for the majority of the first half of the season because their new stadium, Audi Field, isn't open until June. And I just have a feeling that with this really long road stretch that they have early on, is going to be really painful for them. And this, and I'm not sure if I said this when I make the prediction, but this crazy schedule that DC United has with so many road games in the beginning of the season, and how they're gonna get home games later on, but with so many road games to start the season, it's going to be really a painful process. It's when you're on the road for that long, it's going to get into the players' heads, and they're obviously going to be fatigued on the fact that they're on the road so much time. They're always in kind of foreign territory, and yeah, I think they'll probably struggle early on, and maybe I think they'll pick it up later on when they have all those home games and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm going to put them in 17th. In 16th, and this is a team that I originally put them right into the third tier of my kind of 5-tier power rankings, but I have moved them down to 16th, and the reason I moved Dallas down to 16 is because of what happened last night. So last night they won 3-2 against Taro FC, but they gave up 2 away goals. And they were coming into the first leg down, I think 1-0 if I remember. Yeah, they were down 1-0, and because Taro scored those 2 away goals, because they scored more away goals, they of course won the leg on away goals. And the aggregate was tied at 3-3, but like I said, Taro scored 2 away goals, Dallas scored nothing, so that's why they won it. And really, that's a big setback for FC Dallas. I mean, you would think that they could have got the job done against Taro, which, for those of you that don't know, I actually searched it up, and they are actually a team based in Panama City. But yeah, that was not what FC Dallas was hoping for in terms of trying to get their season, trying to forget about what happened last year. And like I said, even though they win, the fact that they give up 2 goals against a team that they clearly should have won, it's going to be a really, really bad kind of setup for them. And FC Dallas actually only got their 3rd goal in the 92nd minutes. It's not like they were like in the game for majority. They were like so close. They were trying to crawl back. No, they got their goal really late on. So they could have drew 2-2 in this game. And yeah, I mean, for FC Dallas, that loss that loss in terms of them getting out of the CONCACAF Champions League really, really hurts them. But we'll see how they're going to do. Obviously, it doesn't get easier for them because they start the season against RSL, and you already know that RSL is going to be a very hot team this year because of what happened last season in the second half of the season, when they were probably one of the most informed team in the league. But yeah, so that's FC Dallas in 16th, and in 15th, it's going to be Vancouver. And actually, you know what? I'm actually even going to put 14th into right now, because these two teams, I'm going to say the same thing about these two. And, I ranked both of these teams very low in my prediction yesterday, and I started to sort of regret the fact that I put them so low in the standings, because I really think that, both of these teams, even though many people think that they're going to regress this year, they still have the talents on their team. I mean, yes, Houston did lose Kubo Torres and also that Clark guy. I think his name is like Tyler Clark or something like that. But they still have Wilmer Cabrera, who is, like I said, one of the best manager in terms of getting the best out of his players. And, Houston is a team that, last season, not many people believed that they were going to be very successful. And guess what happened? They completely prove everybody wrong, and they were having a very successful year, even getting all the way to the conference final. And as for Vancouver, despite the fact that they do lose their best goal scorer, Freddie Montero, they still have a decent talent there. I mean, they still have that. They still have Alphonso Davies. They still have that. Oh God, I can't think of his name right now. But they still have a lot of good player on their team, and I'm pretty sure that even though I said that they only have only plan A about their counter-attacking tactics and not really a plan B, I'm pretty sure they're working out a way to try to adjust to make sure that they just don't always rely on hitting teams on the break. I'm pretty sure they're aware that teams will know that they're going to try to sit back and making sure that Vancouver will not have any chance to try to break on the break, and they're trying to figure out a method to trying to fix that. And I think because they're doing that, I think they can definitely finally have a plan B, and finally don't have to just always rely on that counter-attacking tactics that they use. So that's why I decided to put them in 15 and also put Houston in 14th. In 13th, it's going to be the Galaxy, and surprisingly, I haven't heard any Galaxy kind of fan watch my video and say that I put them way too low, and the fact that, chemistry is overrated and that they actually clearly improve. And you know what? That's why I'm going to put them a little bit high here. I mean, I could have easily put them near the 4th tier right here, but I decided to put them in 13th because, I think this team can definitely can definitely challenge in the Western Conference. All they have to do is just get that chemistry correct, and also if the Dos Santos brothers are up for it, then I think the Galaxy could rise up through the table, which is why right now I'm just kind of like putting them in the middle of the pack, because it's like if they get their chemistry working, then they will go up. If they get the chemistry wrong, and if the Dos Santos brother are going to be like the Dos Santos brother last year, then they are going to be falling down in the power ranking. So that is exactly why I decided to put them in 13th. But in 12th place, it is going to be the Chicago Fire. Now, the Fire, I also have seen a couple of YouTubers kind of making their Eastern Conference prediction, and most of them putting the Fire down below the red line and not really giving them a chance to make the playoffs. And I know they're going to regress this year because they don't have David Accam anymore, and David Accam was just the heart and soul of this Fire team last season. But I don't think they're going to just completely regress and just miss the playoff. I think they still have a lot of good talents on that team. I mean, like I said, they still have their main core that feature the likes of Schweinsteiger, Nikolic, and also Dax McCarty. So yeah, I think Chicago will just sneak it in. I don't think they're going to be as good as last year, but they'll sneak in the Eastern Conference. I think they'll make it, and that's why I'm going to put them like in 12th place right now, because that's right around here is where the teams are kind of like they're on the outside looking, or they're just really about to just make it above the red line. So yeah, that's why I put Chicago in 12th there. And in 11, it's going to be my team. It's going to be the San Jose Earthquakes. And I'll tell you what, I have seen a couple of power rankings, especially the one on MLSsoccer.com, and surprise, surprise, they put us very low in the power rankings. I mean, it's just the MLS media just does not give the Quakes respect. I mean, they just do not give the Quakes any respect at all. They always tend to play them down. I mean, this year I think they're started to give them a little bit respect by saying that they could potentially be the dark horse team, but it's not like they said that they're going to challenge for anything. And I really think that for the Quakes this season, you know, they are a dark horse, and they are a team that can definitely challenge in the Western Conference if they get it, just completely get it right. And, you know, I'm going to put them in at 11 right here for now, because I'm clearly not going to put them near the bottom. First of all, they're my local team, and second of all, this is putting them just so low near the table, just saying that they're probably not going to, they're going to have another bad season. And this was the case last season when they put the Quakes near like the bottom to start off the season. I'm like, okay, but we are making some changes, okay? So there should be some improvement, and it turns out there was some improvements. And for the second year in a row, they're doing the same thing, and this time I feel like we have improved, and we do have the pieces, and they still put us too low. But, you know, that's why I put them in 11th place. And I know some people's going to say it's going to be biased because I put them a little bit high, but, you know, people are not giving us respect. And I'm going to make sure that the Quakes are going to get some respect in this league and be a really kind of, they could definitely be a contender in this league if they get everything right. But yeah, anyway, now moving on into the top 10 right now. And the team that's going to be finished in the top 10 is going to be the Columbus Crew. Now, the reason why I put Crew there because is that if I put COL, you might think it's Colorado because they kind of have like the same acronym. So that's why I put Crew in there. And, you know, for the Crew, I originally put them very low. And this is sort of the same situation with Houston, with Columbus. You know, they lost a couple of their key players. But having said that, you know, they have a manager, Greg Berhalter, will always tend to get the best out of his players. So I think maybe me putting them so low near the table might be just me saying that, oh, they lost their best goal scorer and they lost their best midfielder and now they're just going to completely regress. No, I still think Columbus is still a very good team. They still have a couple of key pieces in there. So, yeah, I think they're definitely a team that, you know, definitely could be another one of those that are kind of like in the outside looking in and just maybe they'll have a chance to make it the playoffs, just squeeze into the playoffs. And I have seen a couple of other Eastern Conference predictions that have put the Crew in the playoffs. So, yeah, I think 10th is a pretty respectable place from where the Crew is. But, yeah. Now, moving on into 9th place. And I actually should probably put this team a little bit higher because of what happened just a couple of hours ago. And that, of course, is the Red Bulls. And the reason why I think I need to move them up a little bit higher is because they did win today in the CONCACAF Champions League. They beat Olympia, and they are moving on to the next round. I think they play Club America next, I believe. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, they play America next in the quarterfinal. And, you know, for the Red Bulls, I think they're definitely going to be a team that's going to make the playoffs. They're kind of a team that is just good enough to make the playoffs and sort of not really good enough to just compete in the top 4. You know, the Red Bulls have a lot of young, talented players on their team, and, you know, I think this year is going to be kind of like last year where they're going to be just good enough to make the playoffs, but they just don't seem to be good enough to challenge one of those teams in the top 4, because a lot of their guys are still young and has yet to mature yet. But I think if they keep those young guys, and those young guys will show their potential, then the Red Bulls could be a very big threat in the Eastern Conference in the upcoming years. But for now, I'm going to put them in 9th place, and I probably could have put them in 7th if I did this power rankings a couple hours later. I already finalized this power ranking, so I just didn't feel like making some last minute change. Just kind of do it right now as it is. But yeah, but in 8th place, it's gonna be RSL. Like I said, RSL are coming off of that very kind of hot streak in the second half of the season, and I just don't see how they cannot continue that streak that they were on in the second half of the season. I really think that this team can easily be the best team in the Western Conference. And like the Red Bulls, they have a lot of young talent, but the difference between the Red Bulls young talent and the RSL kind of young talent is that the RSL young talent has been proven already that they can compete with anybody. They have done it in most of the games, and with Mike Pecky there, who is becoming one of the better manager in MLS, and how he's been able to kind of guide his team to success and just kind of make that big turnaround last season from being a team that looked doom and gloom to almost making the playoffs. I really think RSL is going to really be doing very well this season. I think their young talent is going to take it up another notch, and they could really challenge for the Western Conference title. No, they could be one of the best team in the Western Conference. So yeah, I'm going to put RSL in 8th. And in 7th, it's going to be Portland. For Portland, I put them in 7th place. Most of the teams that you're going to see in the first tier is mostly going to be Eastern Conference team, because, like I said, the East is definitely stronger than the West. The West is getting better, but the East is still going to be the best conference this year. And for Portland, despite the fact that I mentioned about the good things about how their attack is very good and they're trying to get young, the one thing that I sort of forgot to mention is the defense. And Portland's defense is really iffy coming into this year. Besides Ridgewell, that is potentially their best defender, who I don't really see who else is a really good defender for them. And Portland had that issue in terms of defending last season, and I just have a feeling that they're going to have the same issue this season, which is why Portland's probably going to have a couple of games where it's going to be 3-2 or 2-1. They're going to definitely have good young attacking piece, but they're also potentially going to concede a lot of goals because their defense is still not where they want it to be. Even though they try to sign a couple of players to reinforce the defense, it still doesn't feel like it's good enough. There's still question mark with the Portland defense, which is sort of one of the reasons why I put them a little bit lower than what they would be in the standings of this power ranking. But yeah, so Portland, of course, finished 7th, and in 6th place, it is going to be Orlando. And for Orlando, I put them so high up right now because if you look at this squad and look what they've done in the offseason and how it's pretty clear that they're going all in, I expect them to do very well to start off the season. I expect them to really start off the season very well with all those good pieces. And if you look at all the off-season kind of deal that they've done and coming into the season, this team looked like a team that can definitely challenge in the Eastern Conference. I know some people might not think that Orlando could challenge in the Eastern Conference because the Eastern Conference really have three very decent and very good team that's gonna battle out for that Eastern Conference title, and that of course is Toronto, NYCFC, and Atlanta United. But Orlando, with the squad that they have with a lot of good MLS veteran player and players that have definitely proved in the past that they can get it done, Orlando could be one of those teams that can really challenge those three other Eastern Conference Giants team for the title, which is why I put them up right here in 6. Now, if they start to struggle early in the season, then there's no doubt that they are going to drop. But if they keep winning, then maybe potentially I am going to put them in the first tier here in this power rankings and put them in the top 5. Speaking of the top 5, let's get into the top 5. And in 5th place, it's going to be Seattle. And by the way, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video when I talked about Seattle versus Santa Tequila or Tequila, currently it is actually 0-0 right now. It's in the 41st minute. So yeah, but for Seattle, I put them in 5th. Mainly because, I would have put them higher up, but that Jordan Morris injury is kind of the reason why I put them just a little bit lower than what I expected. I mean, it's a big blow for Seattle. I know I said that last season they kind of did a good job even without Jordan Morris, but to have a guy that definitely can really be a very good player here in the MLS and have a guy that could be like a backup option from Clint Dempsey, and now that he's not there anymore, I think once again it kind of starts to raise a question about how can that attack still make another year? Can that attack continue to be very, very decent even though it's started to get really old? And can Clint Dempsey once again score a bunch of goals? And can guys like Ladero can also carry the team once again? And if there's injury does hit with this team, there's also kind of question on the attacking end too, of whether or not if it's going to be good enough if those injury kind of happen, and will those players that is in the depth chart, will they be just good enough on the attacking end? So that's why I put Seattle a little bit lower than what I would have put. I probably could have put them in the top 3, but for now I'm just going to put them in 5th place. Now in 4th place, it's going to be the last Western Conference team in the power rankings, and that of course is Sporting KC. And for Sporting KC, obviously we know that they have an absolute stellar kind of defense, and they definitely have a very good midfield also. The question for Sporting KC is definitely on the attacking end, and whether or not that can they still do just enough to stay near the top position. I think for Sporting KC, since they have such a good defense, and I think last year they didn't really score a lot of goals last season also, I think they're probably going to be having a lot of like 1-0 or 2-0 game. But still, their defense is just going to be rock solid again. And, it was the case last season. I don't see how it isn't the case this season. It's definitely not like what happened with Colorado, where, Colorado had a rock solid defense, but then it kind of fell apart. Well, that's because they traded a couple of key pieces in the offseason, and that defense is sort of a little bit older than what the Sporting KC defense is right now. The Sporting KC defense is still pretty good, and most of the players are kind of like in their prime. So I really think that if they can once again play lockdown defense, if they can just have enough in the attack, they can definitely be a team that will be a team to beat in the West. Meanwhile, now we're moving on to the top 3, and I don't think these top 3 should be a very big surprise, because I already kind of mentioned it a couple of seconds ago. And that, of course, first in 3rd place is going to be Atlanta. Now, Atlanta could have been in 2nd place, but recently, a couple of days ago, they have announced that Ezekiel Barco has been injured. I think he injured his hamstring, and he's going to be out for the first 6 to 8 weeks or I think it's 4 to 6 weeks, but he's going to be out for about half of the first half of the season. And, you know, obviously it's a little bit of a big blow for Atlanta because they paid this guy with a record kind of amount of money, and now he's not going to be fit enough to start the season. But still, even I think without Barco, I think Atlanta should still be fine. I mean, that attack, you know, even if you do not have Barco, that attack still is the deadliest in the league. I mean, when you have guys like Joseph Martinez, Miguel Almiron, and Hector Villalbar, that is just, it's just incredible. It is just absolutely incredible, and they're gonna be just tearing up the each team's defense throughout the season. The only other question about Atlanta is definitely the midfield, you know, with whether or not if Nagbe can fit into that role and whether they can find a good replacement for Carlos Carmona. But either way, I still think Atlanta is going to be one of those teams that is going to really challenge Toronto for that Eastern Conference title and potentially challenge for the MLS title. And in second is the other team that potentially could challenge Toronto for that Eastern Conference title and also the MLS Cup. It's going to be NYCFC. And for NYCFC, you know, just like Atlanta, they have equally deadly attack. You know, their attack feature the likes of Villa, Rodney Harris, Maxi Morales, and also Jesus Medina. And they also have a rock-solid midfield and also a rock-solid defense too. So I think for NYCFC, like I said many times, it's not about how well they do in terms of the regular season, because we know they're going to probably finish near the top of the Eastern Conference. The question is, can they finally get it done in the playoffs? Because it's one way to be the best team in the league, and, well, one of the best team, and definitely a team that has TFC really scared. But it's another, the fact that when you get to the playoffs and you don't even take care of business very early on, and you don't even get anywhere near to have a date with TFC and kind of a duel in the playoffs. So for NYCFC, even though I think if they have a good regular season, you know, I'm still going to be skeptical and say that can they get it done in the playoffs? And that is going to be the question that is going to be on Vieira's head all season long. And he's already trying to do some things to try to make sure that this team can finally get over the hump in the playoffs. But yeah, I still think NYCFC is going to really challenge TFC, and certainly they can have a chance to also win the Supporters' Shield. But rounding up the top, and this should not be any surprise, it's going to be TFC, and I don't really need to say much again about this, of why they are currently coming into the season as top. They are the defending champions. They have depth in their team. They have Sebastian Javinko, Michael Bradley, and Josie Altidore on their team, and many other. They also have a very good midfield. They have a good defense. They have a good attack. And they also have a good manager called Greg Vanney. So, yeah, I pretty much just said everything about why TFC is going to potentially win back-to-back MLS Cup and are the top team coming into this season. So, yep. But either way, guys, that is pretty much it for my power ranking. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this power ranking? Do you think some teams I put them way too low, or do you think I put some team way too high? And of course, week 1 of the power rankings will happen on, I think, Monday. And I'll probably do power rankings every Monday. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.